It's day 27 of my 30-day SQL query challenge, and today's problem is basically a leave approver. Now, we have been given this problem statement. Given vacation plans table shows the vacations applied by each employee during the year 2024. Leave balance table has the available leaves for each employee. Okay, so that is these two tables. These are the input tables given. Write an SQL query to determine if the vacations applied by each employee can be approved or not based on the available leave balance. If an employee has sufficient available leaves, then mention the status as approved, else mention it like insufficient leave balance. Assume there are no public holidays during 2024 and weekends, that is Saturday and Sunday, should be excluded while calculating the vacation days. So we have two tables. There is a vacation plans table. So every time an employee requests for a vacation, it will be populated in this table. So you can see that this is the unique ID. Then you have the different employees who have requested for the vacation. They are from date and they are to date. And then there is a leave balance table. For every employee, how many leaves do they actually have, right? Now what we need to do is we need to come up with an output something like that. Now along with these input data, we also need to calculate the total number of vacation days that each employee has applied for. Now when you find these vacation days, you need to ignore the weekends, right? Because between these days there might be some weekends, so we need to ignore that and then count the total number of weekdays. And then we need to compare these vacation days with the leave balance to see which of these leaves can be approved or not. For example, if we consider employee 1, we can see that they have requested for two different vacations. The first one is for 5 days and the second one is for 9 days, right? Now, when they applied for the first one, that is for 5 days, we could see that their leave balance is totally 12 days. So, out of 12, they can take 5 days, hence the status is approved. But when it comes to the second request that they made for 9 days, we could see that because 5 days they have already taken, that means from 12 if we subtract 5, that is 7. So they only have 7 leaves available now and they're requesting for 9, and that is why the status is insufficient leave balance. Okay, and that is exactly what we need to do for every single leave request. Okay, I hope you understand the problem statement, and you will now find the data set and all the materials in my blog as well as in my Discord server. You can then solve it on your own and then share your solution in my Discord server. Now I'll be solving this using the PostgreSQL database. Now, as you can see, I have already created the two tables in my PostgreSQL database. I'm using the pgadmin tool. Now, first of all, what is the first thing that we need to do? We have been given these days, the 2 days, that is the from date and the end date, when the employee is taking a vacation or has requested for a vacation. We need to first find how many days of vacation have they applied for, because we need to exclude the weekends, right? That is the first thing that we need to come up. Now, how do I find that? Basically, you see here for the first record, the vacation applied is between 12th of Feb until the 16th of Feb, right? So probably it is 5 days. But how do I count that? And how do I check if between these 5 days, are there any weekends that comes in between these 5 days, right? If it is, then we need to exclude it. Now, if we did not have to exclude the weekends, then it is actually pretty simple. We could just find the difference between two dates. We could use an inbuilt function, or we could just subtract the dates and we would get the number of days, right? But here, since we need to exclude the weekends, that is the tricky part, right? Now, in order to handle this kind of a case, one of the ways I can do this is if I could somehow modify this data set such that whenever I process this record, I should see the number of days between these two dates, and then for each day, I need to come up with one record. Meaning, when I should do something such that I should have one record for the first day, then for the second day, third day, until the last day for each of these applied vacations, right? And then I should do that for every single vacation. Now, how I can do that is by using one inbuilt function called generate series. Now, if you remember about generate series, for example, if I just tell generate series, and if I just mention 1,5, and if I, let's say, run this, what is it doing? It's basically fetching me 5 records, starting from the first parameter here and going until the second parameter, right? This is what happens when you provide an integer. But in this case, I want dates, right? So what I can do is I can actually provide dates. So for example, I'll just copy this date and I'll put it here. I need to convert it into the date format, because this is basically a varchar for SQL. and by doing this symbol, the double colon, I'm just using the cast. Now either I can convert a value into a date using this way, or I could use the cast. Okay, now I'll just use this because it saves some time for me from typing. And the second date is this one, and again I'll convert this into date. Okay, and then since this is two different dates, I also need to provide a third argument here, and the third argument is basically telling how many days interval should I have. For example, if I just put 1 day and if I run this, you can see that I'm getting 5 records starting from the 12th February, 13th, then and going till 13, 14, 15, and then 16th, right? And let's say instead of 1, if I put 2, then it's going to basically skip 1 day. So it's 12, 14, and 16. Okay. Now I am interested in 1 day interval because I need a record for each day. Now this is fine, but you can see that I have this timestamp. It's basically returning a timestamp. I want a date. So what I can do is, first of all, I'll give an alias here. And let's say the alias can be dates. And here I'm just going to say dates. For example, if I just run this, it's still the same. And here I just want to convert this into a date. So what I'll do is, I'll just use cast. Okay, I could also use this way, but I'll just use the cast. Okay, cast as date, right? And I'll just name it again dates. And now if I run it, now I'm getting everything in the date format. Okay, this is fine. Now, in addition to this, there is one more thing that I can do. That is, I can identify each of this date belongs to which particular day of the week, whether it's Monday, Tuesday, etc. Right? Now, how I can do that is I can use a function toChar, okay, and I can provide the dates, okay, and then I can provide the format. I'll say day. And this one I'm just going to call it like day. Now if I just run this, now it's telling me each of this day, what day of the week is it, right? And I'm already getting it here. Now this is super helpful for me because I can then filter based on this column such that I can eliminate the Saturdays and Sundays, right, between all of these vacation days. Now this is fine, but here I have actually hard coded the two dates, right? Now what I want to do is I want to use this query in my vacation plans table, right? Now, one way of doing this is basically I need to join this table with this table, but there are no common fields. Now I can do a cross join here to basically join these two tables, but not any cross join. I'm just going to do a cross join with the lateral keyword. And I'm going to tell you what it basically does. For example, I'll just copy this query here. I'll put it here and I'll give an alias like V, and then I'll just copy this whole thing. Okay. And then here I'm just going to say cross join, but I'll use the lateral keyword. Okay. Now I'll tell you what lateral keyword does, but let me just finish writing this. Okay, so I put the same query here, but here I do not want to hard code the start date and end date. What I want to do is I want to take that from this table, that is a vacation plan. So I'm just going to say v dot start date, sorry, not start date, it's called as from date, and then I'm going to say v dot to date. Okay, and I think that's all, and I'll give an alias for this like d. And yeah, I think that's all. So now let me just, okay, now before I run it, I just want to explain you what I'm doing. Now, generally, if you did not use the lateral keyword, in that case, whatever subquery you provide here, it will execute independently, right? But here in this subquery, if you look carefully, I have used the fields from the above table, right? So if you have this kind of a requirement where your subquery in the from clause, you have a requirement where you want to filter or you want to use a field from the tables which is referred prior to your current subquery, then you will need to use this lateral keyword. Okay, it just enables you to use the fields from other from tables, okay, which is declared before this particular subquery. Okay, now if I just run this, now you see I have 7 records. Basically what happens is I'm getting 119 records. Now basically what it is doing is, we know this subquery, what it will do is between the two dates, if there are 5 days, then it's going to return 5 records, right? For example, if you look at this first 5 records, its from date is 12th February and its end date is 16th February. So you see that there is one record for each of the days, right? So 12th Feb, 13th Feb, 14th Feb, 15th Feb, and 16th Feb, right? And same way, if I just go down to, let's say, ID number 2, just consider, let's say, these records. Okay. Now this is for the second vacation that was applied for by the employee 2. His vacation days are his vacation days are between 20th Feb to 29th Feb. So you can see that there is a day that starts from 20th, 21, 22, and it goes up to 29th, right? So for every single day between these two dates, there is one record created using this generate series. And since I'm doing a cross join, every record of this table will join with every record of this table. So I hope you understand what this cross join lateral is actually doing. Okay, now it's basically doing a cross join, but I'm using the lateral keyword so that I can just use these fields from the above from table. Okay, that's the whole purpose. Now I'll just bring this down here. So I have this, and let's say I'll just remove this. I don't need that. So if I execute this again, I'm getting all of this. Now what I want to do is I'm only interested in the days which is not Saturday and Sunday, right? I don't need the Saturday and Sunday, because what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to count the vacation days. So here I'm just going to filter saying that where day not in, I'll say Saturday and Sunday. Okay, so if I run this, now I have 119 records. Hopefully it should reduce. Okay, it is not, because if you look here, let's say this one, okay, Monday, you see here at the end there are some spaces, right? So I need to truncate those spaces. So I'm just going to do one thing. I'll just tell trim, and I'll just move this here. Okay, and now if I run this, now you can see that I'm getting 83 records. So these are the 83 days out of that 119 that initially had. Some of those days are now not shown because those belong to the Saturday and Sunday weekends, right? So I think these are the exact days that I wanted. Now, based on this, I can calculate the total vacation days applied by each employee during each of his vacation application, right? Now, I can do that by easily grouping the data based on, in fact, I can group all of these fields together, not the dates, but all of these 4 fields, because for every vacation ID, it belongs to the same employee. The from date and the to date is basically the same, right? So I can group based on all of these 4 fields and count the number of days to get the vacation days. And I don't really need this field, because this field I only wanted for this particular filtering, right? So that's exactly what I'm just going to do. I'm just going to say ID. In fact, I'll just tell v.id, v.emp id. I need v dot from date. I need v dot to date, and yeah, and then I need the dates. So I'll just say count of d dot dates, and this is going to be my vacation days. Okay, and I need to group the data based on all of these fields. So I'll just put this here, group by this one. And now if I just run this, you can see that I'm only getting 7 records. So if I just make this up, you can now see that I have 1 record for each of these applied vacations, and here I'm getting my vacation days. Okay, this is exactly what I wanted. It was basically the first thing that I wanted from my output. Now, along with this vacation days, I also need to know the leave balance, because I need to use the leave balance and then the vacation days to find out the status, right? Now, what I'll do is, in order to get the leave balance, I need to join with the leave balance table. So I'll just use a join here. I'll just join it here, leave balance L, and I'm just going to join it using the employee ID field, L.employee ID equal to V.employee ID. And I need to fetch, so for example, I'll just move this here. I need to fetch basically the leave balance, that is L.balance, okay, as my leave balance. Okay, now the only problem is I have grouped all of this data and I have used the aggregate function here, so I cannot simply use this field here, right? Now I know for each of this vacation ID, and it belongs to one employee, and their leave balance is basically going to be the same. The leave balance for every employee, basically there's only one leave balance, right? So I could also use this inside the group by, okay, and it will not basically change my data. So here, and I'll just keep it as it is. I think that's all. Now if I run it, yeah, you can see that basically I am getting the 7 records, and the order has been little different. So let me just sort the data. I'll say order by v.id. Okay, and now if I just run this, now you can see that I am getting the data that I wanted. So 1 record for each leave application. I know the total leave balance for each employee, and I know the total vacation days that they have applied, right? Now this is fine. The next thing that I need to do is I need to find if each of these leaves can be approved or not, right? So I need to check the leave balance with the vacation days, but I cannot simply check it as you see here, because For example, let's say if I just sort the data such that I have different vacations from each employee together, just so that it becomes easier for me to explain. So I'm just going to say v.employee id, comma, v.id. Okay. Now if I just run this, now you can see that the first two record belongs to the vacations applied by the employee one, right? Now you can see that when the employee one applied for the first vacation, he requested for 5 days. He or she requested for 5 days, right? They had a balance of 12. So 12 minus 5 is 7. So that means that a vacation can get approved, and that is exactly what you see here. But when it came to the second leave that the same employee applied, now the leave balance has actually changed because already 5 leaves are taken. So the remaining balance is basically 12 minus 5, that is 7. And out of 7, the employee has requested for 9 days. That is not possible, right? You only have 7 leaves available, but you're applying for 9, and that is why the status is basically mentioned as insufficient leave balance in this record. Okay, and that is what we need to do. Now, if you imagine how we can solve this, basically we will need to use recursion. Why? Because every time we are processing the leave application, that was for the first leave application, we can simply do the leave balance minus the vacation days. That should be fine. But if the employee has applied for the second or multiple leave applications, then I need to basically calculate the remaining leave balance from the previous iteration, right? And that is why I need to use recursion. Now, if you are someone who is not very comfortable with recursive SQL queries, then I would highly recommend you to check out the recursive SQL codes that are available on the LearnSQL.com platform. Now, as you can see, I am on the platform here, LearnSQL.com, and I am looking at all the different courses. And let's say you are interested only in learning about recursion, right? So you'll just put recursive, you'll just search for that, and you can see that for recursion, there are multiple different courses. Now, the first course that you see is basically a standard course, which is irrespective of any database. But let's say you are someone who wants to learn recursion in MySQL, then you can take this course. Or let's say you want to learn recursion in PostgreSQL, then you have this course. And let's say you are someone who wants to learn recursion using the SQL server, then you can take up this course. Okay. Now, let's say just for example, I'll just go into this PostgreSQL recursion course, and you have all the details here. You can just check that out. But let me just click on continue. And if I just show you the course content on what you will be learning here. Okay. Now, initially there is an introduction and there are some basic quiz which basically should help you to get started in learning recursion, right? These are like the prerequisites that you need to know. You need to know some basic SQL before you can learn about recursion, right? And that is exactly what you'll be learning in the first chapter here. And then they explain you about the basic CT. How do you actually use CT? Because in order to use recursion, you need to first know how to use CT. So that is what you will be learning. Then you will learn about all the nested CT concepts, right? And then comes the recursive CTs. So in recursion, they'll teach you about how do you use it with all the basic concepts and the infinite loops and few other things, right? And then how do you use CTs with some DML operations, right? And basically you have the final quiz, which kind of will help you to complete the course and also brush up all the different things that you have learned, right? Now, this is a pretty good recursive SQL course. If you are interested, you can take it up. Now, currently on LearnSQL.com, they have this Easter sale going on. So you have a pretty good discount currently if you want to purchase any of the courses. But my recommendation is before you purchase a course, just check out all the free courses that are available on this platform. Okay. And every month they have these different courses that are given for free. So you can check that out as well. And then if you want to purchase a course, generally under each of the courses, there are some free challenges or free chapters that you can take, right? Before even purchasing the course. So I would recommend that you first take the free interactive courses, and then if you like it, only then purchase the course or purchase all the courses on the platform. Now I'm going to leave a link in the video description so you can check out the LearnSQL.com platform. And I want to thank LearnSQL for sponsoring a part of this whole 30-day series. Now let's get back into using recursion to solve the problem and come up with our final output. So in order to use recursion, I'm just going to be needing this whole query, right? So what I'll do is I'll just put this whole thing into a CT. I'm just going to call it like with CTE data as, and I'll just move this to the right and I'll put it inside the CT. I don't need order by, so I'll just put this. And then I'm just going to say select star from CT. Okay, and I'll remove this. Okay, now if I just run this, I'm getting an error. It is CTE data. If I run, okay, it's not in proper order, but I want to show you one more thing, and that is why I need the order. So I'm just going to say order by v employee ID, comma v ID. Okay, if I run this, Now, in order to build my recursive logic, okay, recursive SQL logic, what I need is, as I told you previously, if employee is applying for a vacation for the very first time, then in order to find the remaining balance, I can just subtract the leave balance with the vacation days. That will be the remaining balance, right? But when an employee is applying for the second vacation or the third or so on, then I need to handle it separately because I need to take the remaining balance from the previous iteration. That means in my recursion, the first iteration or the base query should include all the leave applications for all the employees, basically their first leave application, right? So I need to know which was the first leave application for each employee. So in this case, for 1, this is the first leave application. For 3, this is the first leave application. And for 2 and 4, they only have 1 leave application, right? Now, how I can do that is, if I could just use a row number to each of their records, okay? So that I could partition based on employees and find which leave application is the first one for each employee. Now, I can do that just by using a row number here. And I'll just move this to the above line. And here I'm just going to say row number. I'll say over. I'll say partition by v dot employee ID, right? And then I need to sort the data. So I'll say order by, and I'll use the same ordering here. Okay, this one. So I'll use that here, and I don't need to mention the order by here. So I'll remove that. And this whole thing, I'm going to call it like as RN. Okay, now if I run it, now you can see that I'm having the row number. So if you look for the employee 1, he has requested for 2 vacations, 2 leave applications. So the first one is 1, second one is 2. Similarly for the employee 3, they have requested for 3 leave applications. So I have 1, 2 and 3. Now I'm going to use this when I'm building my recursion. So what I'll do is, I have this CT which I want to use inside the recursion. So on top of this, I'm just going to call the recursion. So I'm just going to say with recursive CTE as, I'll open the parenthesis and I'll move this to the right and I'll just close the parenthesis. Okay, this whole query is going to be inside my recursion. Now, as part of recursion, you know that we need to have 2 queries, right? There should be, this is the base query. Then I need to have the union clause, right? Or the union all. And then I need to have my second, that is the recursive part of the query. Now I'm just going to comment this out. This we will come up later. And then I need to have my main query, which is going to be select star from CT. Okay. And from CT. Okay. If I run this, I'm still getting the same output. Now, the first thing that I want to build is the base query, right? That is from the CTE data table. Now, I know in the base query, that is what happens in the first iteration, I only want to consider the leave applications, which were the first leave application applied by each employee. So I'll just put a filter here saying that where RN equal to 1. When I put RN equal to 1, I'll only get the records which are basically the first leave application for each employee, right? If I run it, you can see that I'm getting the 4 leave applications. That is fine. Now in this, I want to fetch all the fields, whatever is present here. I'll do a star. Additionally, I want to find the remaining balance. In order to find the remaining balance, and since it is the first iteration, as I told you, I can just do a leave balance minus the vacation days, and this is going to be my remaining balance. And if I just run this, now you can see that I'm getting the remaining balance when each employee applied for the first time their leaves, right? That is fine. So this is basically my base query. Now let us come with the recursive part of the query. So I'll uncomment this one, and then here I'm just going to say select from CTE, join with the CTE data, because I need CTE so that I can fetch the previous iteration. I need the CTE data because this is where I'm going to get all the data from my main table, that is this particular table here, right? So if I just run this, now the fields that I need to fetch, first of all, let me give an alias here. I'll just call it like CD. I need to do a join. So I'm just going to say cd.rn equal to, I want the ct.rn plus 1. Why? In the first iteration, ct is basically fetching for rn1. In the second iteration, I want to fetch wherever the row number is 2. So I'll do 1 plus 1 is 2, and that is exactly what I'm trying to match with. And the same thing continues with the third iteration, right? So here I want to fetch cd.star, all the field from this CT data table. That's the first thing. Additionally, I want the remaining balance. Now here, when I'm fetching the remaining balance from the second leave application onwards, I want to check the remaining balance from the previous iteration, from the previous leave application, that I will get from this particular place, right? And how I can do that is, I'm just going to say instead of using the leave balance, I'm going to use the remaining balance. So CTE dot remaining balance minus, I'll say the vacation days. Okay, and this whole thing is going to be my new remaining balance. Okay, so I think that is all. And if I just run this and I'm getting an error because I need to provide an alias here, and I'll just tell cd dot, and if I run it, now you can see that I am getting the data, but I was having 7 records, now I'm getting 20. The reason is when I did this join, I joined based on the row number, but we know that these row numbers are repeated. So when you join 4 records which is having the value rn, and again with 4 records which is having the value rn, you're going to get some duplicates, right? So there was one more join that I needed to add, and that is related to the employee ID, right? Because when I'm checking for different row numbers, I'm checking specific to each employee, right? So I need to put another join saying that cd.emp id equal to cte.emp id. Okay, now if I run it, now you can see that I'm getting the 7 records, which is exactly what I wanted. Okay, and here I have the remaining balance. Now let us first validate if this remaining balance is actually correct. So let me take the employee one, and I see that they had leave balance of 12. They applied initially for 5 days, and then the remaining balance became 7, right? And then the same employee applied again for 9 days, but they only had 7 remaining leave balance. So 7 minus 9, it's telling the remaining balance is -2, right? Which is actually correct. And when I come to the third employee, initially the third employee applied for 26 days. They had 21 days. They had 26 days of leaves remaining. So after their leave application was approved, they had 5 more remaining, right? And then the employee 3 applied again for 7 days, but they only had 5 days remaining. So 7 minus 5 is again -2, right? And then for the same third employee, again applied for another leave for 13 days, but he or she already do not have any leave balance. They have -2. So -2 minus 13 is -15, right? Now, wherever I have these negative values, I can use the case statement to print the status as required in my output. Okay. And that is what I'm going to do using the case statement, and I'll use that case statement here. So I'll tell case when remaining balance. So I'll just copy this case when remaining balance is less than 0, right? If it is less than 0, I just want to have this message. So I'm just going to copy this, and I'm here. So if it is less than 0, then I want to print this, else I want to print approved. Okay, and this is my status, right? So if I run this, now you can see that I'm getting the status, and this is exactly what I wanted as per my output. Okay, now in order to just fetch the fields that I need, what I can just do is I'm just going to say id emp id from date to date, leave balance, vacation days, and I think that's all. Now if I run this is basically my final output. I hope you like this problem. If you did, make sure to like the video and share it with your friends. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow with another interesting problem. Bye.